promo code REALAmerica for 15% off.
Or its future director, Kash Patel, back when he was a private citizen in 22, 23, by getting his phone records. That's right. He wasn't the only one around President Trump that happened to. They also did it to current White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. Sources telling us that both of those phone record seizures were through grand jury subpoenas and were focused on allegations involving the classified documents case against President Trump. That's the one that eventually led to the raid at Mar-a-Lago, then the appointment of Jack Smith, then the indictment of President Trump related to those documents that were found at his home, and then the dismissal of the case. Now, this is a pretty significant piece of information, not only because the Bureau was spying on its future leader, but also because at the end of the day, there's no evidence that Kash Patel or Susie Wiles did anything wrong. They were never charged. They were never accused of any wrongdoing. But their phone records rifled through, like now we know, 8 or 9 members of Congress, scores of targets in the January 6th investigation, the dragnet of the FBI, the Justice Department, the intelligence community against all people who were conservative or associated with President Trump widens by the day. The behavior of those agencies, particularly under Joe Biden, becoming more troubling by the day. And on that note, a second story that I know you probably heard about, it was trending all day on social media. We're calling it the Fanny Files. That's right. Georgia's former prosecutor, the current Fulton County District Attorney, Fanny Willis, was indeed plotting all along with the Biden White House, the Biden Justice Department, and the January 6th Democrat Committee to plan her case against Donald Trump and his associates, those who were involved in protesting election results. Now, we all think in America we have protection from double jeopardy, meaning we're not going to be prosecuted twice for the same crimes. But what you see in the new documents that Just the News obtained with the help of the America First Legal Institute, tremendous public interest law firm, we spent 3 years fighting for these documents. Fanny Willis claimed they were privileged, claimed they should be redacted, claimed we weren't entitled. We ultimately won them. 8,000 pages in all. You got to see them this morning. Is that the Biden White House worked with Fanny Willis and said, listen, we'll pierce President Trump's executive privilege. You can have anything you want. Now, that's very rare. Executive privilege is almost never pierced for a state prosecution or state civil case. Secondly, the Justice Department said, you want access to our people? No problem. We'll sign 2 agreements and allow you to get our best people to testify before your state grand jury. Then the January 6th committee said, come on down, get any documents you want, any videos you want. We'll help you make the case. That happens. Then, as you're going to learn tomorrow, Fanny Willis's office was offered a grant. Literally, the Justice Department said, hey, just apply for this grant. We'll give it to you as a sole source. All right, so some money is exchanging during the same time frame. And then Jack Smith brings his federal case against Donald Trump. And then right after it, Fanny Willis, just a few weeks later, brings a state case, basically double jeopardizing Donald Trump and all of his colleagues in these cases, double draining the legal resources and the reputational stock that those people had by twice indicting them, and then creating a dual-barreled investigation and prosecution. Now, at the end of the day, both cases ended up getting dismissed, as you know. But millions of dollars in legal bills were spent, reputations were ruined, and now we're seeing a triumvirate, a triple-headed siren working together. Congressional Democrats, Justice Department, and White House under Biden working with a Democrat prosecutor in Georgia to create that scenario. Pretty significant and serious stuff. Lots of people reacting to that. We're going to kick off the show in a few minutes with Chairman Barry Loudermilk, the man overseeing the January 6th investigation. This surprises him. He's going to give us his very latest. But before we do that, my amazing colleague Amanda Head, she covered that very long, very entertaining speech last night by President Trump. You got some day after thoughts about it, don't you?
Indeed I do, and I published them this morning at about 12-something middle of the night.
You were indeed.
After my poor editor stayed up late to work on it. But I do want to focus for a moment on the president's address. And while some Democrats chose to boycott the speech altogether, several top party leaders were in attendance, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And I want to highlight what may have been the sharpest moment of the night, where the president directly addresses both Democrats and Republicans. He looks at both parties, and he calls on them to stand if they believe that the primary duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Take a look.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
And that image, of course, spoke louder than any campaign ad ever could. On live national television, the American people saw exactly where each party stands or doesn't stand. Such a smart move from the president, but also a little bit risky, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So what's the Democrats' response to why they decided to boycott the president's address and refuse to stand for the president's accomplishments? Here is Democrat Senator Jeff Merkley.
When an authoritarian proceeds to try to destroy a democratic republic and turn it into a strongman state, you need a high level of citizen protest and resistance. Otherwise, people think it's just acceptable and normal. And the next election really matters, because if the president succeeds in rigging the next election, which he's trying to do, then we can get an enduring strongman state, and everything that we've honored and fought for 200 years is destroyed, and we can't let that happen.
That has literally nothing to do with what the president said, and I think it's hard to understand how the Democrats relate the president's America First agenda to authoritarianism, since when is putting your own citizens first considered authoritarianism? But next, are tariffs really hurting our economy like Democrats and liberal media suggest? Here's Jameson Greer, our U.S. trade representative, giving us the truth on that.
Every month from April through December 2025, the trade deficit goods went down year on year. That's exactly what happened. So from April to December, the trade deficit in goods went down by 17%. When we look at, is the trade policy working? We're looking at the direction, the trend in the trade deficit. So that's going the right way.
17% drop in the goods trade deficit since April 2025 is no accident. This is a result of President Trump's policies at work. It's a shame that the Democrats dislike President Trump so much that it clouds their judgment. But, John, I want to ask you about this moment that we just showed a few moments ago with President Trump, because that was a risky move, because Democrats could have stood up and said, we're not crazy like you say that we are, but they couldn't help themselves. They sat down. President Trump gambled right.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a safe bet. It wasn't too risky. I mean, we kind of see it every day, right? They can't applaud a young girl that survives a horrific traffic accident. They can't stand for a secure border, a safe city, a balanced budget. They can't stand. Yeah, they just can't do it. And I thought what the president did was he created the fulcrum upon which the 2026 election now will be debated. You're either a patriot who believes in these things and celebrate America's 250th birthday with pride and joy and appreciation for American exceptionalism, which the president put on, or you're a hatred, someone that thinks America's history is embarrassing, that we should bend our knee to global interests, and we don't applaud for survivors of victims. We don't celebrate our heroes, and by golly, we don't celebrate a closed border, a decline in crime, and success on the foreign stage. Patriots versus hatreds, that's the 2026
Someone should
election.
put out a headline tomorrow along those lines.
I think someone's going to do that now. All right. Speaking of patriots and the importance of what we've learned, much of what we learned about January 6th before we got these documents from Fanny Files came from our first guest tonight. He's the chairman of the Select Subcommittee on January 6th in the House Judiciary Committee, great congressman for the state of Georgia. We talked to him a little bit ago. He's on the road. He was willing to dial in because this story's so big. Have a listen to what we talked about. All right, folks, getting back to the conversation at the top of the show. Yes, the Fanny Files, very important stuff. Joining us now, the chairman of the House Select Subcommittee that's been looking at January 6th and all the shenanigans that went around it. He also represents the great state of Georgia. Chairman Barry Loudermilk, sir, good to have you on the show.
It's good to be with you on the road today, but hey, this is so important, it's worth making a stop.
We are grateful that you're with us. You had this right. Right from the moment you started the J6 investigation for Republicans, you had a suspicion that the Biden White House, the Biden Justice Department, and the J6 Democrats, well, they were in bed with all the states that were trying to be junior cases to Jack Smith. When you look at these documents now, what's your top line assessment? Worse than we thought?
I think so. The first inclination that we had that there was some type of coordination was during the previous investigation in the 118th Congress. I came across a loan document buried in some of the documents that they did preserve, and it was, in my opinion, something they probably forgot to take out, but it was a letter from Fanny Willis to Chairman Thompson asking about him sharing some specific documents. Of course, when I asked the chairman about it, he didn't recall anything or if they provided documents, even though in their final report it referenced documents that they gave them. My issue is I want to know what they gave them, and that's where I think our next step is.
Very important.
Chairman, you have such an you're at an amazing intersection because you're from Georgia, so you're intimately familiar with her record and her behavior in Georgia, but you also obviously chaired up the committee that's looking into this. What it says to me that there was so much close coordination between what should have been two separate investigations is that they were willing to pin anything on anyone for any reason, even if they weren't present at the time or had any involvement at all.
They were so desperate. I mean, when you go back and you look at this from a 35,000-foot level, they were so desperate to pin this on Republicans and specifically Donald Trump, because if you go back and you look at the Select Committee on January 6th, their goal was to make sure Donald Trump never held political office again. And if they could have put him in jail, they would have. But where we are right now, we're seeing that was broader than just the Select Committee. Of course, Fanny Willis was so desperate to prosecute and imprison other people associated with Trump. They were willing, and we had the Biden White House going along with it, changing precedent that had ruled documents for centuries in this country, right? The executive privilege. And they were so desperate to find something. And this is, John and Amanda, this is what strikes me is this tells me they weren't finding enough. They weren't finding enough to actually do what they were trying to do, so they were getting more desperate. And same thing with Fanny Willis. She was so desperate, she was willing to do whatever, even coordinating with Select Committee on January 6th. And some of the documentation that we're finding was late in the Select Committee's process, predominantly meaning they had already constructed their narrative. They filed their final report in December of 2022, and this is when we really see a lot of coordination happening between the two, because they know that there's only a few weeks left before the Republicans take over. So they really have to get documentation and then start working with the Biden administration, since they were going to actually continue on for 2 more years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, we look at the J6 collusion between the Biden White House, the Biden Justice Department, and the J6 and these local state prosecutors in the larger light of weaponization. In our system, in our Fourth Amendment protected judicial system, you're supposed to be protected from double jeopardy, meaning you don't get charged for the same crimes in 2 different jurisdictions. But it looks like that's what the Democrats were trying to do, which is to not only create jeopardy in 2 places for defendants, maybe to break their bank or break their will, but also to just drain their resources and the attention span of their lawyers and others. Does this ability for Georgia to bring essentially the same Jack Smith case as the federal case, but in a different jurisdiction far from Washington, does this look to you like a form of abuse? And what reforms could potentially be ahead that we should look at in the Justice Department, the FBI, and other places to prevent this in the future?
Well, it does have the appearance of double jeopardy, but you got to go back and you look at what their goal was. Their goal was to put this, as they called, act of insurrection on the shoulders of Republicans. That's why they came after me with some fictitious claim that I led the insurrectionists on reconnaissance tours. And by the way, as much as they use insurrection, and even in these documents, the word insurrection is used, there was not a single person that was ever indicted or even the charges of insurrection brought up on them. So as much as it's used, it's interesting that they didn't even try to apply that to anyone there. But your question plays back to their desperation to pin this on Republicans. If they can't get it one way, let's get it another, or let's just throw everything against the wall and hope that something sticks. As far as what we're going to have to do about it, we need to really look at, from Congress, we need to look at how the Department of Justice, even Congress, has been used in weaponizing. We see it happening right now. I mean, if you look at the dysfunction of Congress, it's because we're so focused on using legislation as a tool to beat the other side up instead of finding what can we agree on. We need to fix this for the betterment of the country. They start looking at, especially the Democrats, and you saw this last night in the State of the Union, they couldn't stand for anything. Their hatred for Trump is so great, they wouldn't even stand to acknowledge a young girl who was, severely injured by an illegal alien. And it isn't that they don't care about the girl, it's just they hate Trump so much more. And this is what was driving the Fanny Willis's, the Liz Cheneys, everyone and Jack Smith was just their disdain for Donald Trump and Republicans. So we really have to look at it through Congress, through the eyes of what can we do to stop this weaponization and bring more accountability, because I've even found out now that even the Department of Justice was looking into some areas that I was not aware they were looking in. I knew that the Select Committee on January 6th, they were looking into members of Congress. It appears now, and I'm talking about members of the House, that Arctic Frost was even delving in, looking at members of Congress regarding January 6th.
Wow.
Mr. Chairman, I think a lot of people agree with you that there's got to be another look at how this is done. Would that also include examining and possibly rejiggering the processes? Because we do have processes in this country for document collection. And when it comes to, an investigation, a state investigation in Georgia, bypassing Congress, just going straight to the DOJ to get these documents to coordinate, that seems like a gross abuse of power.
It is, because these are congressional documents. They were looking for documents that were collected through the process of the Select Committee on January 6th, Pelosi's committee. At least the documents that they kept. And this is another question I have, because we know, as my committee has proven, that any document that didn't uphold their predetermined narrative, those just seemed to disappear. They were not made public. And this is why I want to know, what did they give Fanny Willis? Did they give her everything? I can bet you they didn't give her the documents that they wanted to make sure never saw the light of day, right? But the fact that these documents were shared in the way they were with the Department of Justice, and then the Department of Justice shared them, that's a huge problem. It was the same problem I had as when we found out that House documents were sent to the White House and Homeland Security for them to archive, not the House. This is what the Select Committee did to keep us from finding those documents. And so it is a huge problem when it comes to document management that has to be fixed.
Yeah, so important. One last question for you, sir, before we let you go. Tomorrow, these same documents are going to show that as Fanny Willis was coordinating with the Biden White House to get executive privilege waived and get the Justice Department to give 2E exemptions so that federal workers could come testify in there and get the documents from the J6 committee, that the Biden Justice Department dangled a financial carrot, basically offering and inviting Fanny Willis's office to apply for what they called a sole source grant, meaning a grant that would ultimately not have any competition because they were the only one able to get it. Right. What should we be concerned about that, and what might you look into on that?
Well, money talks. We always look at the money and where the money flows and what was that money that used for, especially if the grant was given, and I'm just speculating here, but if the grant was given to enhance her investigation into Trump, that's a real significant problem as far as I'm concerned. And one other thing about the way the documents are handled and the exemption from certain documents, we have to make sure that the law applies equally to everyone. If you go back and you look at several programs that Obama was involved in, this executive privilege was not waived. It was upheld. This was for Biden administration to waive executive privilege for Trump's documents. That was unprecedented, and it could have a significant change forever in this country. So we have to get back to a place to where justice means equal application of the law to everyone, regardless of party.
Such a great point. They waived the president's a current president waives a past president's executive privilege for a state case, not even a federal case, not even a national case, but a state case. Pretty remarkable. Mr. Chairman, we would not know half of what we know about the truth of January 6th if it weren't for your determined efforts. I have a funny feeling we're going to learn a lot more based on the things we talked about today. But great to have you on your show. Always an honor to talk with you.
Well, thank you. And again, people wouldn't know it unless you were out there willing to share it.
Thank you, sir. Very kind of you to say so. All right, folks, we got a lot more ahead for you. First, a quick commercial break. Be back right after these messages.
Hey, folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
The radical left knows exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history.
Welcome back, everybody. As we have been discussing, the president gave a remarkable speech last night, just barely a year into his second term. He has completely turned the economy around. The economy is beginning to roar. Our borders are finally secure. And now the president is fighting to bring back fair elections. So here are a few questions. Why is Iran accusing the president of big lies following his State of the Union speech? And as the U.S.-Iran conflict continues to escalate, what's next for the administration and our national security? So joining us to discuss this and more is former senior advisor to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Justin Fulcher. Justin, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I actually want to ask you about something that someone else said, not President Trump, last night after Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer was briefed by Secretary Rubio. He spoke to the press very, very briefly. He didn't provide any criticism of President Trump or what he heard. He just said this is very serious. The president is going to have to make his case to the American people. I I was very surprised by, first of all, how abbreviated his response was to the media. What do you think? What do you think his thought is when it comes to what the president is proposing, and what do you think that is?
Well, I think as he summarized well, I mean, President Trump is, of course, weighing all the options on the table, from diplomacy to military and kinetic actions. And I think, as Chuck Schumer stated very succinctly, this is a complicated situation, and there are a lot of different courses of actions. But ultimately, I think it's a good sign that while the situation is complex, it's a hat tip to President Trump for handling that with ease.
So, Justin, one of the things that we're seeing in the media are reports that China wants to give hypersonic missiles to Iran to make it tougher for us to attack. We see some reports of concerns about biological weapons programs we might not have known about, or chemical weapons programs. And then there's always the lingering and always concerning worry about nuclear weapons, though we probably set that back a big way in the July operation last year. Are there concerns on the ground that Iran may have some capabilities or some things up their sleeve that could be disturbing to Americans beyond what we already know about them?
Well, I think Iran has shown that they do have capabilities that could be very threatening to the United States and our allies. I mean, whether it's the enrichment of uranium and their nuclear program, but also in other areas that you mentioned and alluded to. I think ultimately we need to take these reports seriously, and President Trump has been very clear from the beginning that he means business when he talks about both stopping the nuclear program, but ultimately ensuring that doesn't continue. And whether there are other threats like biological or others, I think we cannot underestimate what Iran is capable of, and we need to take those threats seriously.
That's a good point.
Well, China's not the only game in town who has been trying to help Iran. Venezuela, was not anymore since our extraction, Nicolas Maduro. I think we all knew that this was going to negatively impact Iran, and it did in the aftermath. Is it still negatively impacting them?
Well, I think so. I think Venezuela was a very good signal, and our successful operation there showed that even with Russian and Chinese capabilities on the ground, no country is safe from American military power. And I think that's a lesson that Iran has certainly taken to heart. And I think any country that aligns with China or Russia, that we saw firsthand how the U.S. military was able to overcome any of those capabilities. And I think Iran would be no different.
Justin, one of the questions would be, all right, it was clear what the mission for the military was last July, and that was to neutralize and set back by years the nuclear weapons program. If we fail at negotiation, or if Iran refuses, we shouldn't say we fail, but if Iran refuses to negotiate meaningfully, and we do take military action, is the stated goal going to be regime change? And we're done with this. We're going to create the circumstances by which the Iranian people can overthrow their mullahs. Will that be the stated goal, you think?
Well, President Trump has said a lot of things, but regime change has not been a core focus at all. It's always been a focus on the nuclear program in Iran, and also, more recently, the killing of innocent civilians that were protesting against the Iranian regime. So I think, while there's lots of discussion about regime change, I think ultimately the objective stays the same, which is under no circumstances should Iran be allowed to develop nuclear weapons or advanced nuclear capabilities. And last time we saw with Operation Midnight Hammer, those were very limited and precise precision strikes. But ultimately, perhaps a broader military campaign would be required. But ultimately, I think the objectives remain the same.
Would another strike like what we saw last July, would that be the nail in the coffin for the Ayatollah? Because it certainly, they're like cockroaches. You can't blow them out with the apocalypse.
It certainly seems like they're quite resilient, but I think they're definitely on the back foot. And as we've seen, those strikes were incredibly effective. And I could only imagine, what Iran is thinking right now with the very limited strikes last time. But imagine, 5-10x, even greater military capabilities that could be deployed. We've seen, F-22s deployed to Israel, and we've seen one of the largest military deployments in recent history throughout the region. So I think it's very clear that President Trump is preparing for all situations. And while we can't count Iran out, they are an adversary, and they do have real capabilities that could cause harm to Americans. Our American military might is incredibly strong and prepared for all of those contingencies.
Sir, before we let you go, after the bungled, failed withdrawal from Afghanistan, so many people in our military who served felt depressed. They felt ashamed a little bit. They wondered if their service had meant anything in that 20-year war. Last night, the exceptional heroism that was honored time and again for the men and women of the uniform was so poignant. How important was that for the morale and for the future leaders of the military to see a commander-in-chief embrace greatness and heroism where it occurs almost all the time in our great military?
I think it was incredibly important, and it's just such a humbling thing to witness of how the president just honored these great warriors. I mean, these are folks that are completely silent professionals operating behind the scenes. They're definitely, not seeking it for the public glory. But I think President Trump incorporating that into the State of the Union was such a powerful reminder, not just for the American military, but for the American people on how important our way of life is because of those willing to put their lives on the line to protect our freedom at home and abroad.
Yeah.
So well said.
Justin, we love having your perspective here, former Pentagon official and senior advisor to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Justin Fulcher, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, coming up next, we continue our discussion on Iran and what the administration can do to support veterans across America and more. Stay tuned.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Welcome back, America. We're going to stay in America's favorite five-sided building, the Pentagon, where the new War Department is making such remarkable change. You saw the president celebrating that last night with all the successes, from procurement reform to refocusing on war fighting to getting to the next generation of weaponry and capability. Secretary Pete Hegseth has made an enormous change in such a short period of time. His former Deputy Chief of Staff is here to join us. We love him every time he comes on the show. Darren Selnick. Darren, great to have you.
Great to be on. Thanks for having me on.
Some of my sources tell me that in the discussions in the last few days, there's been some concern that China might move some hypersonic missiles to Iran to give them a better chance to embarrass the United States or attack back. It's a reminder that a few years ago, we were quite a bit behind on hypersonic missiles. I know we're starting to catch up, and Pete Hegseth is moving quicker. But when we look at that moment, how much were we set back by the Biden administration's failure to focus on future warfare fighting?
Well, when we came in there, and I was there from day one,
yeah, you were.
What a disaster. So people say, hey, how come we got rid of these generals? They were like bureaucrat generals. They weren't warfighters. That's why we have General Dan Kane, who's doing a wonderful job. So we got Mike Duffy over in heading up acquisitions, undersecretary. But whether it was acquisitions and hypersonic missiles or military healthcare system, everything had just laid to waste for 4 years. They were more interested in DEI and woke, which is some of the stuff that I handled when I was doing the personnel before I became deputy chief of staff. Yeah. And so, I mean, one of the things that Hexeth has done is like cut the bureaucracy, cut the excuses, get it done, and get it done now. And I got to tell you, if we had tried to do the Iran raid that we did, or potential that we're looking for during Biden, I don't think they could have done it. We inherited a disaster. I mean, it would have been like a Jimmy Carter thing. Yeah. But we got rid of the woke. Everyone is laser focused on being warriors and reestablishing that warrior ethic. And so that is why we had such a successful run. That's why we had successful Venezuela. Those are things that I would have been doubtful, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I mean, the previous chairman was a nice guy, but he was an administrator. He was not a General Patton, not a warrior, not a Dan Kane. And so that's what we had to get, that warrior ethics, and we have to have leadership. I'm retired military, retired Air Force. If you don't have the leadership, you don't have nothing. And, there's an old joke that there's a reason there's a river between DOD, DOW. So, they were like getting rid of that river. They were just making another federal agency. Can't have that. You don't have a second chance.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point.
Darren, when a company refuses to innovate, that's when their competitors step in and they really, step on the gas. It's the same thing with military. When militaries don't innovate, that's when you see our competition. But also, that's when you see conflict cropping up, as we did during the Biden administration. How far behind are we when it comes to innovation? I know, obviously the hypersonic missiles, the F-47, which I was in the Oval Office to see the unveiling of, we're desperately trying to catch up, but it seems like there's a lot to do.
Well, there is a lot to do. You can't undo 4 years in 1 year, but we've made great strides. My son, for example, works for Raytheon. He's working on the Golden Dome. And so they're trying to catch up there. And you still have some of the old, even the military bureaucracy that is like, hey, we don't want to get along. And that's where the careers, a lot of good careers, but that's where the politicals are sitting there and pushing them and clearing away the dead work and making examples of those who won't go ahead and move forward on this stuff like that. A lot to catch up. Fortunately, we got a great team. The secretaries are great. The undersecretaries are great, whether it's readiness with Tata, whether it's Mike Duffy on acquisition. They are moving ahead. Bureaucracy is a hard thing to change. Our Deputy Secretary, Steve Feinberg, great guy, knows his stuff, and is behind the scenes. These guys are working 24/7.
Yeah, no, you can see it. You can see it in the transformation. Last night, Americans got to look into the eyes of true American heroes. Yep. A pilot that has his leg shot so badly he's bleeding out, and he's still flying that chopper out to get Maduro and the team out. World War II, a Korean War veteran who rescues 150 people. And we hear about them every day. We hear it sort of storified. When you look in the eyes of those guys when they stood up, and you got to see them, that pilot standing with the walker as he's trying to heal back. What moment does that do? Not only for American people to look into the eyes of a real American hero, but for our allies across the world and for our men and women who oftentimes during the Biden years didn't get any recognition.
Right. It's one of those challenges. You're on active duty, and everyone talks about how great you are, and you get discounts. And then the day you are off active duty, it's like you're invisible. Yeah. And so, this is the first time, this is the first president I've seen really provide that straightforward recognition. Look, I worked for President Bush as well, and he was a veteran too. Sure. But no one loves our veterans and our active duty, and shows it more than President Trump. Yeah. When I worked in the White House, Trump won and met with him. That was his top concern, and that's how we got the Mission Act. It's making sure, hey, if we have our combat troops get hurt, I'm going to give everything they need to get done. And so it's that recognition by the president himself and coming to the State of the Union. So it's not just some guy who's given a lot of money or something like that. It's really making sure that Purple Heart's put on, the recognition to the pilot. You cannot understand how much both the active duty, Reserve National Guard, and the veterans appreciate that. A president who really appreciates his military and his veterans and shows it and goes out of his way to do it. And it's just not been done before.
Yeah. Never saw something like that last night. That was incredible.
It's an amazing by a president who truly loves the troops and put them first.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
He never misses an opportunity to talk about it. I want to go back to the bureaucracy thing for a moment, because so oftentimes it's tied to waste, fraud, and abuse. And I know you've spoken out about this $40 million a week that goes to Afghanistan. A lot of it ends up with the Taliban. That is a direct result of, too much waste, fraud, and abuse in the system. How do we fix it? It's definitely not just Afghanistan.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's hard to fix because it's so embedded. Look, you have a very thin layer of politicals. You have a very thick layer. The State Department's one of the worst cases, and that's how a lot of this money gets distributed, and and trying to Americanize and stuff like that. DOGE was a good step in the right place. We need to take that initial DOGE effort and that initial DOGE thought, and we need to institutionalize that. And I think we need the administration to put together more tiger teams that are getting rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse. Government is self-sustaining, and they are very wasteful because it's easy to spend other people's money. And it's not. We don't have to ask for more money if we actually properly spend the money we have. It's a problem. It's a big problem in DOW where we were addressing it. It's a big problem in the VA. And so we need to do it. I mean, and some of it is just outright not caring, but some of it is just applying industry practices and best practices. I talked to Oracle about getting a better government discount. So it's not necessarily hard. It's not necessarily taking away benefits. It's not taking away. But every dollar you spend better in the DOW is a dollar you're spending for another plane, another ship, rather than wastefully it on something that's not needed. Every dollar that you save by being more efficient in VA is money spent on veterans' health care. Let me give you an example that was brought to me. DOD gets a great discount, $18 for Express Scripts from Walgreens. VA spending $28. So all we have to do is apply that same contract to VA, which they don't know about. We're saving $10. We're saving $1.4 billion.
Yeah, that's big money. President Trump made a big statement last night. His number 2 is going to be in charge of this fraud watch and this fixing. That's a big statement to the American people that you can take the vice president and say, you're in charge, get it done. Darren, I think this is what you said. When you got to there, you weren't sure we could do a mission like Venezuela or Iran. In less than a year, it happened in both of those cases. You played a big role in that as one of the key people Hexet set in to get this started. Great to have you on the show today.
Thanks again.
We love having you on every time. Come anytime you want. This is fun. All right, folks, we got more ahead. We're going to have a big special tomorrow now. A whole show about one issue. You don't think about it, but those tin cans that you put your food in, they're in the middle of a major tussle between the world and America. We're going to dive into that with a real bomb right after these next messages.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Welcome back, everybody. The president's plan to establish long-term financial security for millions of newborn children through his Trump accounts has been discussed here before. What makes today special is that we have a mother who is a Trump account holder, and we're going to talk to her about her experience with that process and how President Trump's policies aimed at making America afford again are having a positive impact in Florida. Joining us now to discuss that, and also what John teased a moment ago, this struggle for tin cans, because everybody buys these for casseroles, for salsa. So we got to talk about that. Chair for Moms for Liberty, Rebecca Litwick. Rebecca, thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having us. I don't mean to correct, but it's Moms for America, but we are Moms for Liberty too. Liberty, freedom.
Absolutely. And it probably said America. I probably just glossed over it. Rebecca, thank you so much for being with us. Have you noticed that tin cans, those types of things at the grocery store, because President Trump is all about affordability. He emphasized that over and over again last night. Have you noticed that those have been more expensive?
Absolutely. It's funny you asked that specific question about the tin cans, because I'm down in Palm Beach County, Florida, but the last 2 months we've gotten really cold days. And whenever that happens, I love to bring out my mom's recipe of good old American chili. And growing up, my mom fed me and my 6 brothers and sisters, so a total of 7. One of her staples was chili because it was very inexpensive to make. And when I was going to the grocery store over the last couple months, what once was $20 and under pot of American chili is not that anymore. It's more around $30 to $35 to sometimes $40, depending on, when I add the meat, because meat has gone up too. But it seems very silly when we're talking about canned tomatoes and canned beans, things that you don't normally think about, but they've become expensive. Another meal that I love to make for my 6-year-old son, his favorite is mac and cheese with a can of peas. Mac and cheese and peas. And that was normally like a $3 to $5 meal, and it's now easily $6 to $7. So I've definitely noticed a rise in those canned goods.
I don't know. I'm actually, next time I'm in West Palm Beach, I'm going to look you up and see if we can go do lunch together, because chili and mac and cheese with peas sounds really good. But there's a real issue here, right? And it's not that our farmers' foods are getting more expensive. It's that we have this temporary sort of disruption in the marketplace. For years, we didn't focus on tin plate, which is the sort of steel that we use to make those cans. It comes from overseas. President Trump's trying to rebalance the economy and get more fair trade for America. And so we put some tariffs, and the system wasn't ready to inherit or in-house all of this tin plate production. When you learn that, and I know you do, you're studied up on this, it's kind of amazing that something like food is affected downstream from that. How do we get more Americans educated on how the system is sort of woven together, and we need to fix it?
That's a great question. One of the things that we do in Moms for America is I gather women, specifically moms in my home, once a month, and we study up on our history. We fall in love with the Constitution all over again. We really equip ourselves as moms. That way we can teach our children, all these great things about our country, the divine blessing of self-governance that comes, not from Washington. It comes from us teaching our children in the home. And so this has been already a topic in our home about, the grocery prices. I'm like, where are you shopping? Because where I'm shopping, and a lot of us, what I'm finding is we don't have the extra time to go and search out these stores where we can, find, like a few cents cheaper. But I've actually dug in that way I can go and share with my mom community that all the way back to like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like we were once, like dominating in the steel game. And so, but all of us, we really do have faith in the administration. We have hope that he will, hear us and, speak for all the moms and the parents that are feeding our kids. Like it needs to be more comfortable again when we're talking, especially when we're talking about just like canned foods. But yeah, I'm doing my part. That way I can educate, my Moms for America group.
Yeah. Rebecca, before we let you go, I think that for a lot of Americans, cans are considered an economical choice. Like you said, with chili, for me, with taco soup, it's a great option when you're trying to feed a big family. If moms in America are priced out of the can market, what do you do?
Honestly, we just have to make adjustments. What else can we do? We just have to say, if our grocery prices are still this high, we're just going to have to, it's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit. And, even if you're buying generic, the generic prices have gone up. And so I just want to say, hold out hope, because I am confident that this will get worked out. But again, it's just going to kind of disrupt every other part of our life where we're spending so much money at the grocery store, we can't afford to do other things. But
funny feeling when the Trump administration hears from moms, when it hears from steel makers and can makers, and from farmers who are all affected by this, they're going to listen. They're always very pragmatic. Tomorrow we're going to, I think, expand. They are, and I think tomorrow we're going to have a whole show that really dives into. It's a really fascinating ecosystem we didn't know. But great to have Rebecca on. This was awesome.
For Moms for America, Rebecca Litwick, thanks so much for being with us tonight. Loved having your perspective.
Oh, thank you, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Yes. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Coming up next, Kamala Harris says President Trump's speech was full of lies, while U.S. Senator Fetterman gives his reasons as to why he shook President Trump's hand after the address. More on that next.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Investigative journalists, my job is to follow the facts. So when I wasn't sleeping well, I did what I always do. I went looking for answers. And I led a search that led me to GhostBed. I interviewed GhostBed's founder, who created GhostBed after multiple neck surgeries. He couldn't find a mattress, no matter the price, that would truly relieve the pressure and supported restful sleep. I was interested. I wasn't sleeping well, but I wasn't convinced. So after taking the online mattress quiz, I chose the GhostBed Signature Hybrid and put it to the test. The difference has been remarkable. I fell asleep almost instantly. That was new. I slept so deeply, I'd wake up surprised it was morning. When's the last time you slept so deeply that the world went offline? My favorite difference is the cooling science. I talk about this on the show. Ghost Bed is designed to release excess body heat, helping keep a stable sleep temperature all night long. No getting too warm and kicking out the covers, then getting cold and waking up. You can try Ghost Bed risk-free with their 101 night sleep trial. And if you need help, their sleep experts can help guide you. Get my special 10% discount when you use promo code NEWS at ghostbed.com/news.
Welcome back, everybody. Still more reactions coming into President Trump's State of the Union speech last night. And John, I am shocked to my core that former Vice President Kamala Harris did not have something nice to say. Everybody check it out.
I watched it. It was full of lies. And, you know, when he wasn't lying, it reminded me of our kids going to show and tell at school. It was nothing that was true about really how the American people right now, so many are suffering.
Inflation is transitory. It was a smooth withdrawal from Afghanistan. Those, to me, sound like lies, not what President Trump said.
President Biden's mental acuity was just fine. I think she vouched for the guy until she didn't, right? Remember her book, she kind of backs away from it. Listen, the Democrats have that as one of their sounding bearers right now. And then they put out a governor yesterday who said, I'm all for affordability. Why, my party in Virginia is about to tax the living dickens out of you. It's a party that has a real problem getting its message and its visuals and its people straight. I don't think it was a good night for Democrats at all. In fact, there's a moment where you see Hakeem Jeffries leaving over, and he's telling someone, it's pretty clear, we've been toasted tonight. They knew last night they took a shellacking, and there's no amount of talking points that are going to extract them from that.
Well, when your whole platform is we hate Trump and not your own policies, then yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. But you know who didn't have a terrible night, even though he has a D next to his name? Senator John Fetterman, because he's one of the few Democrats who actually tries to make sense of what's happening on both sides of the aisle and make his own decision. He wore a suit. He shook President Trump's hand. A lot of people gave him grief for that, and here's his explanation.
You don't have to agree with everything. You can be in a different party. You know, I think it's just basic respect and courtesy, you know, whether it's for the office or whether it's just kind of, I mean, I can't think we can get to the place where, I mean, the State of the Union can't turn into like the Springer show.
John, basic respect, as he spoke about, used to be something that both parties had for the president, no matter who was in power. And what's ironic, that's an old school mentality, but John Fetterman is one of the newest members of the Senate.
I thought his description of the Democrats' behavior as a Springer show, Jerry Springer show, was right. There was screaming, yelling, silliness, walking out, not waiting for the president to leave the chamber and leaving early. He got it right. I mean, listen, this guy, if the Democratic Party ever figures itself out, guys like John Fetterman could be really important forces in bringing the Democratic Party back. But right now, it's in the hands of people like Ilhan Omar, AOC, and Yout.
Yeah, and the media is in the hands of people like Joy Behar, who said that President Trump's speech made her physically ill. Oh, the histrionics.
I don't know what they feel like when they're watching her show.
That is absolutely true. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate you being with us. We're going to be back here tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead, scan the QR code now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shop. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.